Go live. Are we live here?
Right now.
Hold on.
Okay, no problem.
And we are officially live. All right, good evening.
Hey,
welcome to my channel, Stone Gas Man, on YouTube. Here is my very special guest. Live. All right, good evening. Welcome to my channel, Stone Gas Man. I had YouTube. Hold on. Here is my very special guest. All right, good evening. Echo. Sorry. I have YouTube. And here is my very special. Okay. I made that mistake before. I refuse to make that again. I'm just getting used to all this. But anyway, here is my very special guest, Scott Michael Bosco, who saw Escape from the Planet of the Apes when it was released in May of 1971. How are you doing tonight, Scott?
Good. Looking forward to this.
Absolutely looking forward to this. All right, we'll just give anybody watching. I believe we have a few people already watching, but we'll just give them about 2 or 3 minutes. We are paused at the 20th Century Fox Presents, the very first image of Escape from Planet of the Apes. So we'll give them a few minutes to do that. So you saw this movie in the theater in 1971, correct?
Yes, I saw it. I saw it twice. And then I saw it again when it was re-released under Go Ape with all the other films.
Oh, in 1974 when they released all 5 as a
that was
huge
for my birthday
package.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it with my brother and I saw it with a friend, and it was in the same theater, so it was an experience. It was my first ape film in the theater.
Your first ape film in the theater, but it wasn't your first movie in the theater, right? Overall?
Oh no, my first movie in the theater was when I was 5.
What was that?
Believe it or not, it was Snow White.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, and it was interesting. Yeah, the only part I really liked was when she's lost in the woods and everything was going weird. But then I saw The Wizard of Oz, which was my first fantasy film. So it was a re-release. But then with that same girl I saw Escape with, we would go to the theater every weekend. We would take the train. This is when Staten Island was civilized. We would take the train as kids, as 6 and 7-year-olds, and then go see a movie. And we saw a lot of movies in that time. Not just like animated stuff, the Omega Man, Island of Terror re-release, the Projected Man re-release, the 10 Commandments, a lot of different films, a lot.
Wonderful.
It was good stuff. It was really good stuff.
All right. Oh, just a shout out to my friend Jay the Stingray. He's in the chat. He's part of our Region Free crew and everything. So, are you ready, Scott? Or
yeah, sure.
Okay, we are ready to go. Paused at 20th Century Fox Presents. We will start at the count of 3. 3, 2, 1, play. And there we see the shot of the ocean there.
Now, you never saw this in the theater, right?
Oh, no. I wasn't born until 1979, unfortunately. And, I kind of wish wish 20th Century Fox had re-released these films while the new trilogy was going on, or maybe even during the pandemic. I mean, why not? I mean, but of course now they don't exist anymore. But
I had heard they are re-releasing all 5 of them.
Seriously?
Yes, my coworker and my friend, he already bought tickets. It was canceled once because of the pandemic, because they took a census and no one wanted to wear a mask for 5 films. So they rescheduled, but supposedly these are from the new 4K masters, which were done for all 5. So I'm looking forward to it if it comes up. They could cancel it again,
It would be 20th Century Pictures. So, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Now, when you saw this, you saw it on, was it DVD or video the first time?
Oh, Blu-ray. I mean, this Blu-ray, I saw it for the first time last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, for the very first time?
Very first time last year. What happened is that I saw the 68 film. My brother-in-law showed it to me, and I finally was able to check mark that off my list of films because, look, 1968 was when science fiction, of course, matured, and we had Planet of the Apes and 2001, A Space Odyssey. And before that, a lot of science fiction was, about carrots from Venus or something. But there was an intelligence put, into the genre with these two films. I only saw the first film, and then until the new trilogy came out, I didn't become a Planet of the Apes film until that new trilogy. And it actually drove me to go back and look at all these original films that came out in the early 70s. And I'm very happy that I did.
Now, did you watch them in order the very first time?
All in order. It was a weird, bizarre experience watching all four of those in order. It was a journey.
All five of them. Yeah.
All five of them.
I mean, I grew up with this, so it's different. This was my Star Wars. What would be another generation Star Wars? The Planet of the Apes film was mine, all five. And when I've since showed them to people who have never seen them, their reactions are priceless at the end of each film. Because this is one film that would never get made again. I don't think Hollywood has the balls to make a movie like this end the way this ended. It just wouldn't happen today because people would be in therapy over the ending. No, they just don't have the balls they used to have because the Planet of the Apes films traditionally had negative endings. Really. Except for, all of them ended in some negative way. This probably the most negative, What was your reaction? With what's about to happen, what was your reaction when you first saw it?
Yeah, I had no idea. I just had no clue where this series was going. So I had no idea that we were going to have Cornelius and his wife come back from the future in some way. I never would have guessed this. I came into these completely cold. I must point out in the scene, you'll see character actor Emmett Walsh, who is still acting. He's still with us at 88 years old. He was in Knives Out. I just saw that very recently. He was in Knives Out. Yeah. Yeah, long distinguished history in film and television.
Sal Mineo.
Sal Mineo, yes. Now his story I had to read up on, and that was tragic. He was in Rebel Without a Cause, of course, and then but passed away at 37 when he was stabbed to death in a God. There's Emmett Walsh in the middle, the army guy there in the middle with the glasses. That's Emmett Walsh.
Yeah, and he's the one that brings the oranges.
And there's Roddy McDowall looking befuddled. I love it.
Now, when you saw the ending of Beneath, were you shocked that everything was destroyed?
I was. I was not prepared for that dark of an ending, especially for a G-rated movie. I just was not expecting that at all.
No.
But I give him credit for having the nuts to do that, though. To be honest, even though there's different stories, right? What Richard Zanuck and Charlton Heston just didn't care anymore and said, "Hey, let's just nuke the franchise, whatever."
Well, Charlton Heston said he would do it as long as there was no way for his character to come back.
Yeah.
So they had to kill him off no matter what. They had to. But that didn't mean the whole planet.
No, yeah, exactly. Jerry Goldsmith.
His great score.
Great score. One of his great.
And like I said, the ending of this main theme, the strings are the same strings that start the end title. They lead right into each other.
Cinematography by Joseph Barak, who I believe won the Oscar for The Towering Inferno, 1974.
This film is lit well, yes.
Oh, what's up?
This film is photographed very well. Very well.
Yes.
Unlike Conquest, which is horribly done. It's all dark and awful. The person who did Conquest. It was very cheap. Now, about the beginning, a prologue that was filmed, but never integrated back into the film, right? You know about that?
I do not remember them mentioning it in the documentaries, but
okay, there was a scene where the astronauts, we just see astronauts suited in the spaceship, and we see the destruction of the Earth, and that was filmed. I have slides of that scene, of that 2-3 slides of various shots of inside of the capsule. And there was supposed to be blue screen on the outside where they were going to show the destruction of the earth and everything. And then it was going to fade out or white out and go into what we see now when they're in the water. But originally that was scripted. That whole beginning sequence was scripted and shot. So it's really nice. It's a shot. You see, Fox has never really gave a damn about the release of these films on home video. They've always done a slap shot deal. And it's unfortunate that they never incorporated all of the trailers, the different TV spots, the radio spots, and even test footage like that. That was abandoned, the prequel. They should have added it, and they never did. There was a big controversy during the mastering. I worked with when Playhouse, I don't know if you remember Playhouse Video.
I do. Yeah, I remember their logo. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, when the Apes came out through Playhouse, they were remastered. They were in pink boxes, and I knew someone who did the mastering over there. And when they were mastering Escape, they called me because they didn't. The elements had deteriorated so much they couldn't tell what the lighting was during the beach sequence in the beginning.
Oh.
They wanted to know if it was sunrise or sunset because they saw there was deep shadows. And if you look carefully in the beginning, there is a hue of a pink hue of a setting or rising sun. So they needed to balance out the color and fix it. And that's why the Playhouse Video is awful, because they didn't know what they needed to recreate.
Oh, man.
Because I worked with the transfers on the Laserdiscs, the widescreen transfers to Laserdisc, the Playhouse Video ones. And then I was contacted about the first Blu-ray book, which is the same masters, that's in your packaging and whatever. But then I wasn't contacted any further, and they seem to have gone their own way. Yeah, they seem to have gone their own way, and they screwed up major in terms of how they prepared it, and there was a lot of complaints. The book does not have pictures of the stars. It has pictures of a group of people who are big fans, and they dress up as the Apes, and they use those people on the cover of the book that the DVD, that the Blu-rays were packaged in, which is really a shame. Oh, there's Julius, the human equivalent of Julius.
Oh, man. Should we communicate with them or should we not communicate with them?
I remember there was a lot of laughing in the theater when I saw it. When they took off the helmets, there was laughing. No one was shocked. They just laughed at the reactions of the army men. People would always, they found it very comical, and then the laughing just stopped halfway through the film. And I don't remember anyone getting as upset as I got upset, because I was crying massively by the end of the film, and when I saw this as a kid. So much my brother was yelling at me, shut up already. So, but people must have liked it, even though it had an unpopular, let's say a sad ending, because it was a hit. So when they left the theater, they obviously said, I like the movie.
Now, the story goes Sal Menio just hated the makeup so much that that's the reason why he basically just killed his character so early. Is he just couldn't stand the makeup process that much.
He was very difficult to deal with. Yeah.
Such a shame.
Well, if he felt claustrophobic under the makeup, then that's the same reason Edward G. Robinson turned down the part of Dr. Zaius.
Oh, wow. That's right.
He complained about the makeup when they really got it. I have to say, I think this is the best makeup of all the films. For some reason, it's perfect. It just looks perfect. Especially them two, those two. They look, because we don't know his character. But we've seen the evolution of the other characters, even though David Watson played Cornelius in the second film. Kim Hunter was there. And she's naturally older looking.
Yes.
But the makeup is just perfect in this film. It looks real. The texture, whereas by the time it gets to battle, it kind of looks like makeup and it looks a little fake. It's not the same. But this is absolutely perfect. The texture, the painting, everything. It's amazing. Because her character evolved, the features of the makeup did evolve if you look at the 3 films she was in. And they got it down absolutely perfect in this. And it's interesting because the one thing that they don't always take into consideration is the neck. And sometimes you can see the actor's neck in later on in the films. But in the first 2 films, you don't at all. And in this one, they do a good job of doing it. We lost Bradford Dillman, about a year ago, a year and a half ago?
Mm-hmm. And we also lost Arthur P. Jacobs' wife, Trudy.
Oh, I didn't know she died.
2020, was it 2019, I believe it was?
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we just lost her as well.
Oh, wow.
It was within the past year. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's where I blame Fox also. They moved very slow when they were preparing special editions, and most people had already died in that time, and they never considered getting interviews. It's sloppy and very sloppy. And it's a shame that we didn't get more documentation from these people, because what they did was groundbreaking. Nothing like it since. Nothing as good as since. I don't like the 3 new ones because you can't play it. There's no controllers. That's my snide remark about computer imagery, because it's all computers. They're not acting.
Yes.
I'm sorry. It's just not. This is the difference between my generation and the Star Wars generation. I grew up seeing these. I grew up seeing these creatures as people. These were characters. This is why I cried at the end. Whereas they're not computer, they're not robots, they're not fake. They are real. And they came across very unique, very individuals. And this is what we've lost from films today. I say films without souls. That's how I describe it. The filmmakers are just cheating off of each other by stealing stuff from each other. And it started with Lucas, with Star Wars. But these films were original to themselves, groundbreaking, invented new technology to present themselves in an age where there was less available, of course, because there was no computer imagery. And I think that's what made it better. Because they do put it across in such a way, which I don't even know if the people today who are making films have the talent to be able to do it. They don't do things the same way they used to, and they don't know how to make things work. Back then, people there's a lot they couldn't show, so they had to make what they had work, and their imaginations and brains were used more. Now they throw it away and they simply say, we'll do it digital. That's a cop-out. That's not talent. It's just not. And what I really like about these films is all 5, the original, is the economic structure in which the narrative is written. They go through thousands of years and very clearly and concise save their ass, where the new films don't, and they're stupid. No, you know why? Because this is about the beginnings of the Planet of the Apes. Because it's very clearly dictated in the 4th film that on the 5 continents, apes are slaves. The stupidity of the new films is one group of apes from one laboratory in one city break out. And even though the population, human, is dying, it is not a Planet of the Apes because it's only a small group of apes. It's not all over the world. That is stupid. It's not a Planet of the Apes. It's bullshit. And it's the evolution of the newer films started out as a misconception. It was the original publicity of the very first film said it was going to be a prequel to these films, showing what happens to bring the downfall of man as the apes progressed.
Mm-hmm.
But then you don't make it take place in the current era. You make it take place in the city, in the 60s. You back up what the original film where it was, and you show the history. And they could have gone through 60s, the 80s, whatever. Depends which way they could have taken it, because Zira says here in this film that the apes were slaves for centuries. The timeline was changed when they came back, and their son takes over in 20 years. It changed it from centuries as they were told, these apes were told, and because the timeline has been altered slightly. And then happens differently. which when it gets up to another scene, I'll explain why that makes sense because of what Eric Braeden says. Because it's interesting that Eric Braeden's character in this, Hasline, is actually spoken of in Beneath. You remember that? In the very beginning of Beneath.
I'm not an expert on these films, but I do know that Eric Braeden's character was mentioned in the first film. When Charles mentions when they first get to the Planet of the Apes, he mentions, oh yeah, everything he predicted has come true, and he actually mentions his name. Yeah.
Right, and they call it, and they say it's a Hasline curve.
Hasline
and it's
curve.
mentioned, yes, and it's mentioned in Beneath. So it's very clever that they finally brought that. We finally see that character, and we see him, and it's interesting. It wasn't only his theory that was correct; he caused it to happen. Because, like him, the president, are saying, "Do we do this or not? You know, are we? And where will it lead? You know." So it's very interesting. I wish there was
Natalie. Natalie Trinity died on December 5th, 2019. I just found the date.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a shame. I wish his character was in Beneath. This character, Milo, to flesh it out more, you know. Because the interesting thing here is Zira and Cornelius in the first film don't know what the government is doing.
Right.
They learn from Taylor a lot of what they shouldn't know. By the second film, they're on the inside of with the government because they're friendly with Zaius, and Zaius has even gone up to them, if I don't come back, it's up to you to lead. So they've been taken in, which is interesting. What did Dr. Milo know? That's why was he more intelligent and able to figure out the spaceship? Did he have access to scrolls or things written? Because what happens to the apes in their evolution in the first 5 films is very similar to what's happening on Earth right now. We have people rewriting history for political correctness, and they're forgetting the past. And it seems that's what was happening with this, because remember, Zira and Cornelius, when they're questioned later, say that the first ape that said no as a slave was Aldo. It's very interesting if you look, Aldo in the 5th film is the first murderer. So is it possible that the apes changed their history, took that away? Do you see what I'm saying? And changed him and gave him their son's stature. You know what I'm saying? Because they said that he was the first ape that said no, and his name was Aldo. But now we learn through what happens after this point, it's their son Caesar that says no. That strikes up a revolt. So history may have been rewritten to save the gorillas. Because the orangutans took over from the chimpanzees in government and used the gorillas as a force. By the films that we see, the first and the second films. So there's a political upheaval internally among the apes because the control, which was Caesar and as being a chimp, it was taken away and the orangutans take over. So there's been a political upheaval. And when you look at that, that's what's happening now. We have idiots who are out here who don't want to look back at history and say this, that, or whatever, but and if they get their way, history will be changed and altered, and things will be forgotten and restructured. And that's what may have happened within the ape, which basically says it's the old animal farm thing, that if you bring intelligence up to a certain level, you're going to all sin the same way. Oh, yes. You know, it's that type of thing.
And here we have Eric Braeden himself as Dr.
Otto Hasline, right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, man. He was in Colossus the Foreman Project the year before this. But, you know, I grew up watching him in Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo as the French villain who
really
tries to outrun Herbie in the Monte Carlo Grand Prix.
When I was little,
famous twist.
I remember him.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I remember him. I think it was in Rat Patrol.
Rat Patrol.
I think it was called. It was a war thing, and he played a German. You know, and I remember him very vaguely in that. That's when he was Hans Goosegoss or Goosegoss. He had he changed his name. You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, if you look it up, Hans Gusgas, that's what he was known as originally.
Oh.
Okay, so
His
he,
German
in a
name.
sense, and it's a shame because in the time that he was that, he had to change his name because that was a tongue twister, and he became Eric Braeden. But yet Arnold Schwarzenegger years later could keep his name. You know, it's interesting.
Just to let everybody know, we're timestamp 22 minutes in for anybody who wants to catch up. So, oh yeah. You know, for me, I mean, I wasn't born for another 8 years, so it's just fascinating to see how these movies were compiled together with the technology they had at the time, how they could utilize television and the news in these dramatic fashions.
Well,
but what I love about the 20, oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say some of these anchors are real.
Yes, exactly.
Like Bill Bonds, I remember him when he was when Eric Braeden sits down with an anchor and explains time. Bill Bonds was a real anchorman, and that made it cool because as a kid you watch the 6 o'clock news or something, and then you watch a movie and you see someone real there, so it adds a sense of credence to it as a kid, you know. This master is very good. It's very well balanced, the color and everything. So I can't imagine how much better it's going to be in 4K.
Oh yeah, exactly. But what I love this period of 20th Century Fox films. It's just, everything looks so clean and the colors so bright and rich. I mean, it makes me think of like the Batman series or Fathom with Raquel Welch. You know, those kind of films that just they seem to pop out on screen.
Well, because they had good cinematographers, not creeps who do things in Photoshop.
Absolutely.
Because that's what they do today. They'll shoot it, they will not light it, and then they'll say, we fix it in Photoshop. And that's lack of talent. I'm sorry. That's why these things look so pristine. Plus, it started in the 90s. A lot of directors felt that they had to desaturate. Like the first film to start desaturation was Stigmata. You remember that film?
I do. I never watched it.
Good. You're blessed. That was another awful film. It was very confused in what it wanted to say religiously, and I know theology, so it was a stupid film. And the director wanted to do certain things, and he desaturated the color. They did a lot of lab stuff back then. It wasn't digital; it was lab. And I give him credit for playing with the emulsions and the processing, which John Borman does a lot. But it was a horrible film to watch. It looks the way that film looks. Have you ever had a migraine?
Many times.
Okay. That's what it's like having a migraine when you watch that film. Okay. The distortion is so horrible.
Oh.
This isn't now. One thing that's interesting in this scene.
Yes.
One of the people to speak up against them and seems to have an attitude is the religious figure on the right.
Yes.
The priest. It's interesting because he doesn't like the idea that they're married, number one. Because he says, when she says, my beloved spouse, Zira says it. He speaks up then, and then later on in the film, he also speaks out against them. And that's interesting that they chose to do that. Because he should shut up, because God created animals before men. When you know theology, you can catch them in their own mistakes. So this priest does not know what he's talking about.
I just like how Eric Braeden is just frozen studying them.
He's studying the whole situation, which that gives you insight to his character's thinking. And that's really great.
Exactly.
And it shows basically even though he takes a position there, he's catching onto it now. Even though he takes a negative position in terms of the narrative, his character is doing his job. He's constantly thinking. The amazing thing that I found later as I grew up is that the president never asked to meet them. You know, because let's face it, talking apes is a big thing, and yet the president remains aloof. He really does. And that's a big difference on the political situation today. Today, we would have the president seeing them on the second day and doing sponsorship or something, you know, because people today don't know how to keep their mouth shut. So, no, it's true. And if they would just think more and speak less, when they do speak, it would be better. Back then, it's really strange. So much has changed since the 70s, and people don't realize it. When I was doing the commentary on the Omen films, you didn't see all the Omen films yet, did you?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay. All I'll say is that there is a journalist. The journalist in the film acts so contrary to what we call journalists today that when I did the commentary, I had to let people know, yes, journalists were like this. They actually did their job. Because today journalists just lie. And they weren't like that. Yeah. And they weren't like that at all. They wouldn't speak unless they had the facts. Because in one part of the film, one says, I'm not sure yet. And then the person walks out until they're able to prove what they were going to say. That wouldn't happen today. You would have persons saying their opinion without the facts. And people look at this and say, yeah, this is only a movie. But that's the way people were.
Conquest and Battle, of course, hadn't come out yet. Now, when Escape was out, like, what was the reaction among Apes fans in general?
Everyone loved it. It was accepted. Anyway, no complaints. Because I became an Ape fan from this film. My brother had seen the first two films, and he only discussed the second film with me by repeating, I can't believe it's masks. And I didn't know what he meant. But I saw this with him, and he liked it, and I became a fan immediately. And magazines, Famous Monsters showed a picture of the ending. In the article they did, it was a cover piece with Cornelius on the cover, and on the inside in the article they actually showed the ending of Zira and Cornelius down and out.
Oh, no.
In the magazine, yeah.
They spoiled that in a magazine.
Okay. I know. Well, quite truthfully, I don't know. It was very strange. They never should have shown them taking off the helmets. That was in the trailer, and it was on the poster.
Yes.
But no, this got very good reviews. Very good reviews. It was received very well. I don't know if you remember a show called That's Hollywood.
No. Oh, no.
Okay, it was on at around 7 or 7:30, and it was all 20th Century Fox films, clips, you know? And I remember they showed this, and they spoke about this, and they spoke about it with such reverence because it was so well received. And, you know, publicity-wise, the reviews were very good for this. Whereas in the second film, the reviews weren't that good for Beneath.
Weren't that good.
No, they put it down. The New York Times said the mutants they called them the Forbidden Zone Gang. So that was the New York Times. So I remember that. Yeah. There's a great response.
Well, I know I mentioned this before, but the reason why Beneath, even though I saw all the money they spent on the screen, I mean, you know, there's the makeup and the effects and everything, but it literally takes the plot of an animated Spider-Man episode from the 60s that Ralph Bakshi directed called Voyage to the Bottom of the World or whatever. Very eerily the same plot, and I wonder if somebody was inspired by that. I do wonder that. But, it should be noted that, of course, Roddy McDowall was not in Beneath the Planet of the Apes. He was replaced by another actor whose name escapes me, but
David Watson.
Pun intended. What?
David Watson.
Oh, yes. And, well, the reason is Roddy McDowall was in his native Ireland directing. He was directing a movie called The Ballad of Tam Lin, which is a interesting little thriller starring Ava Gardner.
Oh.
Kind of a obscure piece now, though.
Yeah. When I think of early Roddy McDowall, I think of Lord Love a Duck.
Oh, yes. Lord Love a Duck. Oh, and I just read this. Apparently, the director of this film, Don Taylor, of course, he started out as an actor in the 40s. You know, he did noirs like The Big City and everything, or The Naked City, I believe. I'm sorry.
Yes.
But his first film, he directed a Navy comedy about two sailors who bring a duck on board a Navy ship, and it's called like Going Ducky or something weird like that. And his last movie was The Final Countdown. He didn't do a lot of movies, but he ended his career with The Final Countdown, which is actually a pretty good Navy movie, I think. My favorite Pearl Harbor movie. Yes, it is. It's coming out on a 4K, coming out very soon. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's actually my favorite Pearl Harbor movie above Tora Tora Tora.
Yes. My brother would always marvel over Tora 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 and how accurate it was because he was a historian, you know.
Fair enough. Yeah, the history is right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's Bill Barnes. Batman. And in this scene here, this is interesting because in this whole scene, when he starts explaining relativity of time and so forth through the paintings, it's almost exact when it's replicated in Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and it's repeated by Virgil, the orangutan, in terms of his theory of time. So they brought it back. This is like he's an echo, which is really neat that they did that. They got people, at least when they got different people to write these things, they paid attention to what came previous. And they either echo what was done or stated, and they re-mention certain characters. So it's nice that they paid attention, the ones who were hired. The only thing, Battle for the Planet of the Apes, there was one thing missing from that film, I felt. And that was, I believe, Caesar should have had another son. Because in Conquest, he does have sex with another ape, if you remember, a mating period. And I think it would have been interesting if 20 years later, she wanted that. And then you could have, again, I think apes echoing humans. It would have been an echo of Ishmael and Abraham.
Oh.
And they could have had which two, even though he married one and he had a mistress and he has two sons, which son is right to rule? And I think it would have been interesting if that ape, female ape, consorted with Aldo to kill the son. So her son would be the one reigning after Caesar. I think that would have been an interesting subplot to Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and it would have mirrored something in our world. If you know what I'm talking about with Abraham and Ishmael and everything in the Bible. Do you know that story? No. Okay, that's a simple no is good.
It's been a long time since I've read the Bible. Oh man.
Abraham had a wife named Sarah, and they were very old, and she didn't give birth. And he was told that you will, and she's like, I'm past the point. So they said, why don't you go to my handmaid Hagar, who was Egyptian, and have a son and have a child through her? And he did. He had a son through her. And then an angel came to him and said, why did you not listen to me? God said he would give you a son. He's capable. Sarah gave birth to a son. So then the big issue was, who gets to be leader after Abraham? Is it his wife's son, or is it Ishmael, or is it the other one, Hagar's son? And Hagar was a bitch. And she constantly put herself and her son over him. And he finally exiled both of them. And that's where the Arab races come from. That's true.
Oh.
Okay. So basically, if he had just zipped it up, there wouldn't be a Palestinian thing going on now. So the point is, none of that would be happening. He was a curse. His son was a loser. So that's what happened. But God put him through a test, saying, "Take your son and sacrifice him." So he went and he built an altar, and he almost killed his son. And God stopped him and said, "No, I just want to see how much you had faith in me." And it was another test. So it would have been interesting if the apes with Caesar did the same thing, with his pre-life mistress, with two sons, and battling over who would be the ruler. Now something comes up here which is really interesting. When they enter the hotel, There's a person there.
We have some technical. Yeah, you're coming up there.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Oh no, you were breaking up there. Zira walked by a dog. Now we know all cats and dogs die. Eventually, in Conquest, they said that's why apes replaced them. Now in Conquest, Armando says it was a virus that was brought back from space by one of the astronauts. Was it? Because they could be carriers. Because they were in a world where it was common. She walked by. That's why I think they put that dog there, because that's the last time. You know what I'm saying? Their presence puts an end to the dog and the cats because they're carriers.
Oh, man.
So these are, you see, there's little silent things that come across in this, which show there was thought behind them, a lot of thought.
Of course. This entire second act is very lighthearted. I mean, especially compared to the last third, which we're getting to. But
yes, I know.
I know. It's such a dark, tragic ending to what is essentially a very fun fish out of water comedy for the most part, until it just, you know.
Well, the director was quoted as saying he made a love story. That's how he thought of it.
Yes,
and it is. It is a love story. The emotion that binds you to these characters, even if you haven't seen the first two, from knowing them, the emotion giving over to these characters is what makes the ending so profound. Because the acting is just incredible. There's depth to these characters. I'm not going to say ape. I'm just going to say a person. This is a person. I don't know if you noticed, one of the women in the dress shop was dressed in the same color green as Zira. She was just all in green. Yeah. She was kind of like imitating her a little bit. My friend can play this music on piano. Now, you never read the books, did you?
I didn't get a chance to read Pierre Boulez's novel, unfortunately. I got sick and tired of the intro guy, the Oath Keeper, or whatever his name is, keep on mentioning, oh yeah, this is another tall tale from the pages of Pierre Boulez.
Oh, well, it's very different. But did you ever read this one? You read this one?
Not yet. Not yet,
no.
No.
Okay, because they say one thing about what Zira's reaction here to champagne. She said, you know, he tells her it's grape juice plus. It comes out that chimpanzees are natural alcoholics. They're very quickly affected by alcohol in low levels, and that is one reason why most of the time they stay away from it, even on their own planet, which is interesting. Yeah.
Enjoying the high life.
Okay, that's a real announcer too. The guy on TV. He's also a real anchorman. He was on Channel 7 here in New York at one time.
I would so like to wear that bathrobe.
It's a test pattern.
Yeah, I know. Literally.
There was a publicity shot, I don't know if it was ever filmed, of Zira holding a toothbrush and looking confused.
Oh, really?
It was it was a shot that was all over the place, but I don't know if it was originally filmed and left out or what, but yeah.
I can imagine the script was probably much longer and contained, you know, little bits like that they didn't feel the need to hang on to.
Well, the differences in the book are colder, actually. The book is very cold. It's not as warm-hearted as the movie. in terms of a representation. And when they're being questioned by the military, one of the guys who's questioning them says, remember he keeps saying the word monkey and it gets them upset? Zira and Cornelius. He also brings up about, because I said we're pacifists, he goes, I believe they show them a film or something where he brings it up how real footage here on Earth, you know, present day, where chimpanzees have turned into carnivores and they slaughter each other. It was a real thing. And they were sticking it in their face. And it was a little bit more vicious in the book. I didn't like the book, actually. But they make a comment when Zira throws the dead body of the infant in the water at the end.
Yeah.
The doctors are there. The two doctors are there, the man and the woman. And why did she do that? And he says, because there's no cemeteries for, they know, she must know there's no cemeteries for animals, which isn't true. You see, but that's in the book. They make a comment of that. She did it probably so hoping the body would sink so they would not do an autopsy and find out that it wasn't her baby. That's why she probably did it. Because she had already swapped babies. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, this is when she announces that that she's pregnant.
Well, but there was a hint of it in beneath.
Oh, there was?
Yes, when they come home and they're talking about, she's saying a lot of bad things about gorillas, and she goes, at least when our child, when it's born, won't be breastfed on bile. And then she went on about gorillas are cruel because they're stupid. So there was a little bit of a hint there.
There was a seed put in.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. There's little clever things that shoot by you, unless you watch them half a dozen times or even 4 dozen times like I have, you know, so...
I mean, we make a lot of leaps in time and space, but they do manage to hold on to some continuity here.
And they do it in very, very subliminal ways. Not They don't hit you over the head with it. But movies were constructed differently then. Now they're done for idiots. Because most people don't. No, they are. Because people, they would subliminally say something or pass it as a side because people paid more attention to what they were watching. Because going to the movie was like going to church. You went to the movies, you shut up. There were no phones to interrupt you. You were just there. Boom. So now today, people are, something's wrong with people's minds where it goes every which way, like bubbles in Alka-Seltzer or something. So the point is, you were able to do things which today would be lost. But people caught them sometimes back then because they were quiet. I remember seeing this as a kid, and the bottom of the theater, there was a bottom of the theater where we sat as kids. Then there was like a upper part, a balcony kind of thing. Parents with kids would sit up there. Kids alone would sit in the bottom. It was silent. Silent. That's what it was. People were, they were respectful. They were considerate. They were kind. They weren't stupid and selfish. So they actually were quiet, and they'd whisper, you know. When I saw the 10 Commandments in the theater, we just wanted to see the parting of the Red Sea because the commercial kept saying the parting of the Red Sea.
Yeah.
When Cecil B. DeMille comes out and says it's going to take 3 hours and 49 minutes, everybody went, oh. And we knew we weren't going to see it for a while, you know? But you know, the minute the movie started, and it was a kid's matinee, is a re-release of a re-release. But still, I was 5 or 6 when I saw it. We were held by that film. It was unbelievable. All the kids were quiet throughout the whole film. You know, because kids were brought up different then too. You didn't treat the restaurant or the house, the restaurant or the movie theater like your home. It was a place you were out, you had to behave. Now, you know, if the kid needs to do something, it's because the therapist says so. So they do it. You know, my friends' kids were drawing on the table at a restaurant. I couldn't believe it. They literally took out crayons and started drawing on the paper thing. And I said, well, why are they doing this? And they said, it's okay. There's a big difference. You know, he is a good president.
William Wyndham?
Yes, I think he is a good president in this. How they dated the spaceship and the 3950 is pretty damn good. They're only 5 years off. Because in Beneath they say it's 3.9 or 5.5. So they're saying 39.50. So really they're only 5 years off by doing their sampling of however. So they're pretty close. And this discussion is very good actually between them. A lot of good and deep points are brought out from different angles, from Hitler to assassination, everything. It's very good. It's not for kids. This is adult.
It really is.
It was marketed for kids to go see. And when you look at this, and you look at even Beneath the Planet of the Apes, which I think is a hard G. I mean, I don't know how that got a G, but
oh man,
there's a lot going on in that film that's not G.
No,
you know, and
so
they did it. No, and this was GP, I think, because GP came along. So, but the idea is that they made this saying it's still a family film, which shows how much kids have regressed in their evolution of growing up. They're damn stupid today, and they're psychologically disrupted. I don't know why, but the point is, this was made to entertain kids and say it's okay, they'll deal with it, they'll figure it out, they'll learn. But now nothing like this would be made. They wouldn't dare make this for kids today. You know, I call them Logan Run bubble kids. You've seen Logan's Run, right?
No, not yet.
Get out of here, really? Okay.
Not yet.
Well, it's a society that's encaptured in a bubble, in a dome, and they just live for pleasure. You know, so this is the generation that's growing up. They have no sense of what is real, the hardships of what everything is simplified for them and made easy, and that's why they want free education, you know, and stuff like that. So the point is, we weren't like that back then. So it was okay to see, look, we grew up with Hansel and Gretel as childhood fable, where they throw the old lady in the oven at the end, you know? I mean, really, now kids don't know from that anymore. So seeing the ending in this film is just an accentuation of that, saying that these things happen in life. And it was a learning experience. Today, they hide it from kids.
Yeah, because they're too afraid to, like, tamper with their sensibilities or whatever.
Yeah, and yet, well, it's just like the idea of people saying no guns in America. Yet there were times when we had more guns in America and no kids got killed. Every farmer had guns and axes and hoes and scythes and everything. And there were no killing. The first killing was Columbine. In my life, it started with Columbine. So what went wrong with society to suddenly make people want to do it when no one ever thought of it before, when there were more guns? People aren't thinking. You know? Oh, here's where the priest speaks up again. And they shut him up. They do. They put an end to his ranting right away. You can see he's not very happy as is.
Exactly.
Now, I wonder if there's some sort of a committee today where there would be a religious figure on the committee. I don't know if that's true. You know, that's interesting because, well, back then the church was much more powerful.
Yes.
I don't know if you knew this, but there was a time. Do you know the Jeffrey Hunter movie, King of Kings?
I know what it is. I've never seen it. I know what it is.
Okay. That film was tragically edited from what it was originally filmed because the Catholic Church did not like it. And the Catholic Church used to make a list and send it out to their parishioners of what films to see, what films not to see. And you did not want to get on that bad list. So they edited the film down, cut out Jeffrey Hunter's part to minimal, and took out a whole subplot. And what came out was vastly different from what was filmed. And the church said it's okay. So they were very powerful back then. And that was in the 60s. So I would think still in the early 70s, they still had some power, you know? Yeah, now it turns. The whole film starts turning now.
Yeah, this chilling interrogation sequence and then on the run afterwards.
Yeah.
Again, the government just wanting to control women's bodies.
Why do you say that?
The forced abortion that they want to do on her.
Yeah, but it does have its own reasoning. I hate to say that,
yes.
But it does. This would never fly today. What they're saying here, this would never fly.
Never.
No, not. I mean, this touches subjects and certain issues which today are taboo, especially in a family film.
When this came out, they were actually, the Supreme Court was just starting to debate Roe versus Wade. So this was definitely a hot topic at the time.
Yes. Yeah. But it's interesting because I don't know if you knew this, but at the time that the films came out, the number one group of people that associated themselves with the Apes were the black people.
Right.
Because they found them to be oppressed and so forth. So they associated with that. That's why Conquest was edited. Because when the director made Conquest, the original uncut, unedited version that's on Blu-ray now, they didn't release that version because a lot of the scenes that were taken out were actual recreations of the Watts riots in California.
Riots. Yeah.
And he was duplicating that. And they thought, you know what, let's not, and they toned it down to be kid friendly a little bit too, because the ending is harsh when they kill the governor.
Very harsh.
Great ending.
Thankfully, it still found an audience, right?
Yes. No, it was very popular. And I remember newspaper articles saying that the blacks in the theater were cheering for the Apes.
I believe
they felt it was their representation,
Totally believe it. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why there's even a mention in Conquest where Caesar says to McDonald, you above all the others must sympathize or must know what I'm saying about we need to revolt, that type of thing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But you know what no one has ever said? I know that I'm getting into historical stuff because my brother, but it's very interesting because for thousands of years, the Jews were kicked out of every country they went to. They were taken prisoner by Persia and Babylon at one point. They left the Mideast and they went to Spain. Then they were kicked out of Spain. Some returned back to the Middle East and became Sephardic Jews. The rest of them went to Europe, which we all know what happened in Europe hundreds of years later. And then there was finally a formation of a place for them to go back to, which was under British rule, which is Israel. Okay, but they went back home after thousands of years. They went back home. Okay? Tell me the first black that has ever gone home to Africa. Nope. They have a whole continent they can go back to. Not one black has gone there, unlike Oprah, who just wants ratings, opens up a school and then lets it fall apart. But none of them go back and say, I'm going to build this up. I'm going to make it. It's my homeland. It's okay to use it as a preface to being Afro-American, but it's not to go back to live there. And I find that interesting because the Jews did it for thousands of years, and they even added to their Passover service, which was also thousands of years, next year in Jerusalem. A lot of people don't know that, in the hope that they could have a place to go back to. But the blacks have never returned back to their own place of origin. Never. Interesting. I don't get it. But then again, too many whites have gone there and helped them. I grew up with Crest commercials showing them how to brush their teeth. I'm not kidding. There was a commercial where they showed them. And then if you go to YouTube now, you can see they've heard an African village hearing the violin for the first time. Really? So I don't get it. I mean, there's a big difference between South Africa and North Africa because North Africa has a lot of influence through Islam. And that's where the slave trade was. It was very, very, it continued there even beyond us. When we stopped it, it was continuing there because Muhammad had black slaves, but it's an interesting thing. They never go back to build up their place of origin.
Now I have to say there's an actor coming up here in a very, very soon, Tom Lowell. I mean, he plays the guy that delivers them breakfast.
Who gets the train stage, yeah.
Yeah, he's coming up here very soon. I love this guy in a movie from 1965 that also had Roddy McDowall. Can you guess what it is?
1965?
In 65, yes.
Not it. Is it? It's not it. You know what? No, I'm not kidding. There was a movie with Roddy McDowall called It, and it was about the golem.
It wasn't that one. It's from the director of Mary Poppins.
Okay, what is it?
That Darn Cat.
Oh, okay. I saw that.
You'll recognize him when you see him. But yeah, I made that connection literally just over the weekend. I was like, wait a minute. He was in another Roddy McDowall movie.
Did he have a bigger part in the movie?
What's up?
Did he have a bigger part in that movie?
Yeah. Oh, he had a much bigger part. He played Haley Mills's boyfriend that kept on getting in all sorts of snags. Yeah, which were very, very funny.
I remember that. I was little when I saw that film. God, it's been years.
Oh, yeah, 65. I mean,
I saw it maybe when I was 7, maybe 7. You know, if it was made 65, maybe it was on TV 2 years later, you know. The music that's in her recollection scene here is not on the soundtrack, which bothered me because I kind of like it.
Yeah, like I said, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, I wonder if it's on that limited edition soundtrack that I found on eBay the other day by Jerry Goldsmith, the Escape from the Planet of the Apes limited edition soundtrack.
I have it.
It might be on there.
It's not. It's not on either release. There were 2 releases.
Oh.
And the one in the box, it's not in the box set one, and it's not on the previous one. That one piece, this one piece of music. Huh. And then there's a damaged piece of music on the original release, which was limited, which they fixed for the new release. It was sour, and somehow they fixed it up so it plays better now. But the quality on the box set release is not as good as the original release. I reviewed that on my website, digitalcinema.info, that box set. This is interesting because they find out what she was responsible for doing in her world, and yet they still hold it against her, even though everything was flipped. How could you be held responsible when society is different? Do you know what I'm saying? Because they said if they were to be done here, they say it later after this, when the judgment comes down. If she was to conduct them here and now, it would be considered atrocities. But would it be considered such 2,000 years hence, when apes are the ruling entity and the humans aren't? But yet they still hold it against her. And I think they just use that as an excuse, as government will do, just so they can have the right to say, we don't want you to have your baby. Because really, that was the big issue more than anything.
And yet, despite all these elements, these interesting elements of the battles and the racism and the upcoming and the abortion and everything, like this was all talked about in the positive reviews, right? These were all mentioned.
No, I remember them saying
all these controversial themes. Yeah,
They didn't go into that. They just went into it as it's light, it's well developed, the actors are very good. They didn't go into the controversial elements at all.
Huh. They left it for the audiences to discover themselves.
I suppose. Yeah. Well, people were different because now they take advantage of things to make a point, usually their own personal point. Back then, it was not you were not allowed to give your personal point. Newscasters can tell you, this is nuts what this guy is doing, and it's the president. But back then, you weren't allowed. That was a commentary. That was an editorial. Your job was to report facts, not give an opinion back then. That was when journalists were professional.
Exactly.
It's very different. So the reviewers
there he
were
is.
the same.
That's Tom Lowe.
Yes, there he goes. Yep.
Yeah, he'll be back when he does breakfast for them. But yeah, anyway, go ahead.
No, so it's a different point. They did reviews differently, so they weren't long reviews. They were small reviews. I don't think Rex. You see, the bigger reviews were by bigger people like Rex Reed or Kay Gardella. I don't know if you know them. Are you aware of Rex Reed?
I know Reed.
Okay.
I'm aware of Rex Reed, yes.
And Kay Gardella also was with the Daily News. In fact, Kay Gardella is in Superman, the movie. She walks by at one scene outside the building. Yes.
So is Rex Reed.
So those reviews,
yeah.
Yes. But those reviews were longer because those people were popular. So they got more personal stuff in and nasty stuff, like Rex Reed, who's very funny. But the smaller reviews, they just went to the facts. They were different. They were constructed differently. By today,
I think Rex Reed needs to retire.
Who, Rex Reed?
Yeah, Rex Reed needs to retire, I think.
I thought he did. Why? Where is he?
He already retired?
I don't know. I thought he did. That's why I'm asking, where is he?
Oh, I thought I didn't think he did yet. I know he's in his 80s now.
Okay.
Okay.
He did write some.
I can double check.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's not.
He still writes for the New York Observer. Oh, okay. Yeah, he's 82.
Well, he used to write for the New York Daily News.
Mm.
He said very humorous things, though. I got to give him that.
He's just been cited in recent years of saying nasty things, like you said. I mean,
Well, now more than ever, he has ammunition. There's plenty for him to complain about today. I remember when he said, "Did you ever see the movie The Sentinel?"
I know what it is. I didn't see it, unfortunately.
Okay, well, Michael Winner directed it, and he said Michael Winner isn't talented enough. Michael Winner. He did Death Wish, the original Death Wish. He was a director.
The Death Wish movies, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, Rex Reed said that Michael Winner isn't talented enough to direct Traffic. And I thought that was funny. And then, did you ever hear the movie The Manitou? There he is.
I've heard of The Manitou, yes. And
okay.
Here's Tom Lowell. Very funny guy.
What kind of soup would they give chimpanzees?
Well, I mean, in That Darn Cat, Roddy McDowall played the boyfriend of the sister of Haley Mills' sister, who had a duck, and the cat went and stole the duck. And Tom Lowe was the boyfriend who kept on thinking that Haley Mills was having a crush on an FBI agent played by Dean Jones, and kept on following her around when they were really just following the cat to find out where this kidnapped bank teller was.
I saw it such a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite Disney movies.
Really?
Yeah, and he's just a riot in it. I think he steals the movie, actually, away from people like Ed Wynn and Roddy McDowall, of course. Oh, yeah, the Manitou you were saying?
Oh, well, Rex Reed had said there was Ann Sothern, who was an old-time actress, did a cameo in the movie.
Yes.
And unfortunately, being older, she gained a lot of weight. So he was really cruel, and he goes, and then they bring on Ann Sothern, the Goodyear blimp.
Oh, no.
He was vicious. He was vicious.
Oh, that's just vicious right there.
Yes.
That's totally vicious.
Well, he was a bitch.
Well, I know he body shamed Melissa McCarthy in one of his reviews. That's one of the things that he was called out for.
Really?
He fat shamed Melissa McCarthy. Yeah.
Did you ever see Myra Breckenridge?
I have it on DVD. but I haven't watched it yet.
Because he directed that. He's in it, and he directed it. Yes. He was put down for it. Right? It's a very strange film. I didn't think I'd like it, and I did because it's weird. It's very weird, and it's way ahead of its time. Way ahead of its time in terms of what it represented. If it came out today, it would have been a hit.
I have it here somewhere. Yeah, I have it behind me somewhere. I just don't know where it is right now. Myra Breckenridge. I gotta watch that. I gotta watch that eventually.
You will be very surprised how current it is. Really, it is. It was way ahead of its time in terms of subject matter. I don't want to spoil it, but let me know when you watch it what you think. You'll be shocked. You'll say, "I can't believe they made this back then." Today, yeah, but back then, never.
Based on a book by what was his name?
Was it Gore Vidal?
Gore Vidal, yes. Yeah. I have another movie on DVD where he adapted a failed Tennessee Williams movie and made it into a movie with Sidney Lumet called The Last of the Mobile Hotshots. And it was the first movie to where mofo was used as a expletive. It was given an X rating for that, believe it or not.
Really?
January of 1970, yeah.
Wow. Well, that's amazing because the movies, the black exploitation movies in the early 70s got away with so much, and the blacks liked it.
Oh, yes.
You know, it's amazing. People have changed. Now we're breeding intolerance, not tolerance. And back then, people were much more tolerant. It was amazing. I mean, you knew that. Okay, you've heard of Larry Cohen, right?
Yes.
Okay, Larry Cohen made black exploitation films.
Director is.
I'm sorry. What?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Larry Cohen made black exploitation films. Yeah.
Yeah, and he made a few of them, but there were so many of them. Like, and it's funny because I'm surprised they kept it on YouTube. There was one called "The Soul of Nigger Charlie." Go figure. And then there was another one that was, you can listen to the song on YouTube, Boss, and then the N-word. I'm not kidding.
Oh, Ed Williams.
It was just fine. It was fine. There was no complaints back then. And the blacks love these movies. They made the money. They went to see them. No complaints.
Mm-hmm.
So things have changed.
Blackula was the first horror film honored at the Science Fiction Awards, the Saturns, to get Best Picture, Best Horror Film.
Okay,
that's quite good. Yeah. And that was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that one.
That one and the second one.
Yeah, Blackula Scream with Kim Greer.
Yes, yes. The one I wanted to see that I never saw. I would cut out. I have the original ads for Escape, by the way, newspaper ads. Because as a kid, I was fascinated by these ads, and I would always cut them out and keep them. And I still have a whole bunch of them. I have them for Escape, Conquest, and Battle, Go Ape, When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth, The Land, all of these movies, and they're still around. I mean, they're yellowed, of course, these newspaper clippings. But The Exorcist, I have a lot of stuff on that. But another film that I saw the ad for that I always wanted to see was Sugar Hill. You remember that?
Oh, yeah. 1974, directed by Jack. The name escapes me now. Yeah, I know it's 74.
I finally saw it 3 years ago. After all these years, it popped up on Amazon, and I was able to see it.
And how?
What?
How was it? Oh, how was it?
I was disappointed. I thought it would be better.
Oh,
you know, I thought it would have more zombies in it because it was about zombies, but no. So it was a little disappointing. It was okay, but it was just a little disappointing. I thought there'd be more, you know? And then there was another one, DJ's Revenge. I don't know if you remember that.
I'm still making my way to the 70s.
Yeah, I was disappointed with that too. I thought that would be better. But you see them as kids, you know, ads and everything, and you just want to see these movies. She drives a Jeep. That's a Jeep. No, really, it is. It says it right there, Jeep.
Oh, yeah, right there. Yeah.
It doesn't look like a Jeep brand, but yeah.
Not a typical Jeep, no.
No.
I am so not a car expert. But I can't believe that's an early 70s Jeep. Oh.
I know. It looks more like a, oh my God, that very safe car. That's really boring. My brother has, it's very square. I forget now what, it looks like one of those cars though. I'm glad they brought his character back in the second, in Conquest. Armando. Yeah.
Yes. The great Ricardo Montalban.
You know, it's interesting also, the references to religion in these films. In this, he's always bringing up St. Francis. And there's a very powerful speech he gives to Zira about if we were to be dominated, let him be dominated by people like you and blah, 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 blah. And he blesses the baby, gives the medallion. So there's a little bit of that in here. In Beneath, what's really interesting is the console in St. Patrick's Cathedral that controls the bomb.
Yeah.
On the front of the console, there's an upside down cross.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, because it's supposed to mirror the slim, the way the bomb is constructed with the fins on the bottom. And also at the end of their ceremony, they do this. They do an upside down cross in Beneath. And also here, her name, the ape. Her name is Salome. Salome's right out of the Bible. That's the daughter of who danced and demanded John the Baptist's head. So there's little subtle things going, because it's interesting that Hasline is speaking to the president, and he said, if I urge the destruction of these two apes, am I, has he put it, defending God's will or against it? So there's the idea of a higher power controlling things for some weird reasoning that this is happening is always brought up in one way or another. That's why I thought it would have been keen if they had delivered that that story in battle where he had it mimicked the beginning of the Jewish race with the two sons and who would be the leader. It would be interesting if they, because it shows the apes are, to me, it's like I said with Animal Farm, when you get to a certain level of intelligence after speech, you're just going to create the same sins. And the apes are like that. They are us. They're just like us. It's a mirror, you know. They think they are better in certain ways, but they're like us. And it's interesting also because of what Caesar says at the end of Conquest when he says what's going to happen.
Yes.
With great speech at the end. And he says, we will make our own destiny, their own gods, their everything. You know, so it's interesting.
You know, it's amazing. I remember 10 years ago when I wrote for DVD Verdict, I discovered that Ricardo Montalban, he did movies with Esther Williams back in the 40s. Yes. He jumped in the swimming pool with her in like Neptune's Daughter and movies like that. I never would have suspected that's how he got his start in films, because a lot of people know him now as Khan from Star Trek. But but of course, when I think of him, I always think of rich Corinthian leather. Yeah,
Corinthian, yes.
Always the rich. I never saw Fantasy Island. I missed out on it. Did you like Fantasy Island?
Yes, it had its not the new movie. That was garbage. But,
I heard the new movie was hot garbage. Yeah, I heard that.
the original show was entertaining. It had its moments. It did. And there were some things in there also where the devil came into it against what Rourke was doing. Because Rourke was not evil. He actually brought things, the weaknesses in men up and showed them so they would change. That's why fantasy would go a little bit off key. But the devil, there was 1 or 2 episodes where the devil intervened. There was, so it was interesting. That's why Rourke was not evil. That's why he wore white. You know? He was a big Twilight Zone person. Albert Salami, whatever his name is, who was in the other scene, the guy with the mustache.
Oh.
He was talking to Hasline. He goes back to the Twilight Zone, that actor. He was in 1 or 2 episodes. Now, did you ever see the TV series, the Planet Ape TV series?
No, I didn't get a chance to. No, I was born in '79, so of course, I never caught that show when it first premiered. But is it worth getting on DVD? You think if you have to be a hardcore Apes completist? I mean,
yes, yes. I mean, I would say that because I liked it. It strayed away from a lot of certain concepts in the films.
Yes.
However, you can look at it. It fills, if you want to connect it with the films in its own weird way, it does show something that takes place that is spoken of in Battle, that is spoken of in Planet, and fills in a 200-year gap between Battle and Planet. It does. But it does take it a different route because we see a dog in it in 1 episode, which was a stupid mistake, actually. Also, it takes place on the West Coast, not the East Coast, because they go to cities. They find the remnants of certain cities which are on the West Coast.
Oh,
okay, so it's different.
And in the animated series, they actually fly planes and drive cars.
It's like the book.
They have a modern
book. Yeah, it's a modern society of the Apes. Yeah, and that's why I liked it. But you got to give again. When you consider the very beginning of it, when it shows the main title, one of the things you see are apes crucified upside down. Where are you going to see that on Saturday morning? Okay? You would never see that today.
Oh, no.
No. So I give it credit because the creator of the show was the guy who developed Johnny Quest.
Oh, yes. Okay.
That's really not a very good chimpanzee costume. The real chimpanzee, it's not very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a shame. What's interesting is at the end, you see the baby on its own. It's not in the cage with the mother. I wonder if the mother turned away from him. Meaning the real ape.
It's possible.
Yeah, because it's no longer in the cage with her. It's separate. So that's interesting that they did that. Because it might turn her, she might not like that baby. You never know. Because there's such animals can be very different. They can take to something. They can also turn away from something because it's so different. And this baby would be different. She would sense that.
Didn't like how Caesar kept on saying "mama" over and over again.
Well, it had no mama. That's why it was taken away from this ape. That's another reason. You see, so it's interesting. It adds some more dimension to what's going on.
Exactly.
But I remember seeing this in the theater and being shocked at the end because everyone just assumed that was her baby. No one thought that she traded. No one. So when the ending happened, you heard people go, "Oh," so that that was the whole thing. That shocked them. But I remember people walking out silently. There was not a word. They were affected by it, When I showed this to my friend who was 34, 35, he had never seen these movies. And I showed him these movies. And when he got up to this one and it ended, he just said, "I never want to watch this again." So he was very upset by the ending.
Whoa.
And he says, He says, I don't think I could watch it. So when he said he got tickets to see the new Ape, I said, you're going to sit through Escape? He goes, it's going to be very hard. He goes, it's going to be very hard, because he was really mangled by it. He says, they're so real. You know, and I know you like, and I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm going to be Rex Reed. It's not like in the newer movies where Caesar dies like the Lion King in the tree at the end. So, I mean, Caesar home now. But it was just circle of life.
Yeah. I get you. I mean, they definitely lack the poignancy of what these original films contain. This movie in particular, you know.
I like the idea that of the new ones. I like the idea that they're showing the beginnings of the apes, because these are more advanced, more evolved. It takes time,
right?
You know, and I like that, but it goes only so far. It limits you in what you're able to give your audience and get out of your audience. You say, okay, she's still with the baby there.
Yes.
I always wondered.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I always wondered if all the other people at the circus, as the baby was growing up, how much they were aware. I wonder about that. Because in Conquest, he tells them, you can question my circus hands. No one, you know, they would say he can't talk. But I wonder how many of them were, you know, involved in knowing the secret. Now he's Greta. You know, Greta Thunberg today, who's always yelling the world's ending. This is how he sounds. This is Greta when he went back in the 70s. Because all the things like, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do that? That's Greta. That's. And it's also interesting they made him, the character, German, in a sense, because there was still the stigma of the Second World War. And this man wants to save and do everything opposite of, you know, from that reputation, which is commendable. I always like that when they comment on the lights looking like stars.
Oil well?
I didn't know they had within so close to districts where people live. I didn't know they had oil wells. You know, because California, so who knows?
Yeah, I know. Oh.
And it's not like these apes are just walking by. There's no gates there. See how different the world was? There'd be no way that you could enter that area today. Never.
No way. No.
What's interesting, this scene here where he says, come on. That's one of the scenes they show in the beginning of Battle for the Planet of the Apes when they're recapping the films.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I remember seeing Battle in the theater, and the whole beginning where they showed those scenes from Escape and Conquest to catch you up.
Yeah.
They were sepia tone.
Mm.
They are no longer sepia tone. I don't know. I wonder if the shipping yard is still around. Which, you know, it would be a cool place to go to see in a way.
Well, this is set in San Francisco, but it's shot in Los Angeles. Is that correct?
No, because they were in Beverly Hills before. So it's LA proper. Because
it is LA proper. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is interesting because the first film, the second film take place on the East Coast. This takes place on the West Coast.
On the West Coast.
The fourth film just says North America. They never say where. you know. And then the fifth film is not too far off from where that was, so you never know where they are either. So I don't know. They're not very clear. They left themselves open for that.
I can only imagine what the kids' reaction to this ending in the theater was. It must have been shocking to see just them being killed like that.
I just remember silence, utter silence. I remember when she lays down with the baby, and the baby is looking around, and they know, you know, the Hess line is there. People were yelling, "Wake up! Wake up! Wake up! Wake up!"
Wake up!
But that's it, you know. But they otherwise. I kind of remember gasps, but I don't remember anything loud. And I know my friend, she didn't cry at the end, but then again, she was a bitch. I look back at her and I think, you know, she wasn't a nice person. But no, well, her parents weren't very nice, actually. But so she wasn't affected by the ending in any way. My brother wasn't affected unless he didn't tell me or he hid it. Because there's 8-year difference between me and my brother, so he was older.
I was certainly affected when I first saw this. When I first saw this, I was most definitely affected.
I had this movie before videotape, before Laserdisc, before videotape. There was Super 8 on film.
Yes.
And you would get edited down versions of these films that would be like 8 minutes. And I had this. I had all 5 Planet of the Apes movies.
On Super 8?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes. First they came out in black and white. Then they came out with with color, but no sound. And then they came out with sound and color. And it was Super 8. And they were 8 minutes each. Yeah, that was fun. In fact, we showed them and charged admission at my friend's house for all 5 Planet of the Apes films. And when the black mutant gets crushed by the doorway in the cell, and you see holes in him from where the spikes were, and he falls over. Some girl who came over who paid to watch it, she was a little kid, she was like 7. She started throwing up. So,
oh man.
Yeah, so they little habit things that the apes do, like Cornelius before he dies, he does this hissing.
Yes.
Right, and Zira does it earlier when she hears that they're going to be next to a gorilla, and she hisses. That's done a lot in the TV series too. So it's interesting, certain traits that they mimicked and they told the apes to do, you know, the actors to do, or whoever came up with them, because Roddy McDowall was very instrumental in coming up with the facial tics and expressions to make the makeup look real, you know. Kim Hunter also, she didn't like the makeup too much, but she loved the character.
Yeah. Yeah,
Did
she
you
was
ever
in for the documentaries and everything, and they kept, her son kept on telling how her performance was projected all through because of her eyes mostly.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's why she was hired, because she didn't have brown eyes. And they wanted more of a human entity, you know what I'm saying? For her, and it helped her. Did you ever see her in anything else?
Oh, Streetcar Named Desire, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
A Case Against Heaven or A Stairway to Heaven. Did you ever see that?
No.
That you have to see.
A Stairway to Heaven?
Yeah, it's under 2 different titles. It's with David Niven.
Oh, okay.
And it's excellent. It's in color and black and white. The scenes that take place in heaven are black and white. The scenes that take place on earth are in color. It's a very good movie. Very, very good movie. In fact, not Harrison Ellenshaw, his father, Peter Ellenshaw, helped do they show a spiral galaxy, and then as the camera gets closer to the spiral galaxy, you see it's an amphitheater in heaven. And he did that painting.
Oh,
he did the matte painting. Yeah.
Wow. This is I don't know if this is a former Navy ship or an oil rig or what kind of ship this is. I should, considering my Navy experience, I should. But Don Taylor, it's amazing how many movies he worked on with a military or, I mean, Final Countdown.
He was probably he was in the military during the Second World War, I would think.
He was in the Air Force, yeah. Okay. He did Stalag 17. He acted in Stalag 17 opposite William Holden.
Yes.
Yes, he did.
Notice when he said, "I see you have your baby," she looked down at the baby, surprised, because she probably thinking, "This is not my baby." He doesn't.
Oh, yes.
We wouldn't, as being people, of course, So it's very interesting. That was a nice little remark.
Nice
the way she
touch.
looked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Reaction. Yeah. Oh boy. Very sad ending, but very realistic.
Oh yeah, it is very. I do remember people clapping when he got shot.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Yes, I remember that. There was some clapping. It wasn't like a big uproarious thing, but there were some people that were reacting for that. But the audience was very quiet, really.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very involving. It's very involving.
Oh,
so I
yeah.
can see people being so involved that they wouldn't react, per se, because it's just done so well. Yeah, I hope Eric Braeden is listening to us, and I hope.
Oh yes.
I hope he understands how this film is very well accepted and powerful.
Well, he tweeted about it last week. He's actually very active on Twitter, and he tweeted about Escape from the Planet of the Apes. So, I mean, I know that he still has very fond of working on it.
Good. When actors get older, they have to start accepting things that they otherwise may not have liked as well as they had hoped.
Right.
Because when they're dead and buried, it's what they're going to be remembered by, whether they like it or not. And it's better to be remembered, And he has done roles which may not have turned out the way he hoped or whatever, but he's remembered.
Oh, yeah.
And he's acknowledged. He's acknowledged for these roles, and it's fine.
Well, like I said, I'll remember him for 3 roles: Colossus, this, and Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. Well, it's a hilarious ending because they get caught in a tunnel and they're neck and neck. Herbie drives driving upside down in the tunnel, just goes past Eric Braeden in his car. Yeah.
Is he listed as Eric Braeden in the cast? He is.
Yep.
Okay.
That is most definitely Eric Braeden. Yeah. He's just He's just this nasty French auto driver.
French.
Yeah. You know what you can do with your car? You can toss it in the washing machine along with your socks. He would say stuff like that.
I wonder what he thinks of that film.
I tagged him for my Twitter review. He didn't respond to it, so. Very thankless Disney villain role.
I wish they had made the 2 sequels to Colossus.
Oh, yeah, they never did they?
No, I wish they had, though. And with him, I really do. He's not anything like the character, but he was just good at as being the character. The character is very different. Physically, especially.
That's the very sad ending of Escape from the Planet of the Apes. The tent going down, and we see Ricardo Montalban, and Caesar, of course.
Yeah, see, she's not there anymore. The mother. Well, the other ape. Now, if you notice look, there's a blur on the back of the baby's neck.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, I don't know why.
What is that?
I have no idea what they covered up because it's the chain.
Huh.
When I first saw this, I had gotten over them being killed. Then this baby started crying, and I started all over again.
Mama. It's like, really?
Yeah, I know.
And you could tell that they rewound the footage. You know, it was like, oh.
Yes, but it works. It works.
Escape from the Planet of the Apes, released in May of 1971. There you go. Tom Lowe is the orderly. That's what I was talking about earlier. And Ricardo Montalban as Armando.
Yes.
And this is back when they didn't have full credits. They would just basically have the cast and then say, that's it, released by 20th Century Fox.
Uh-huh.
But would you say this ending is darker than Beneath?
I'd say it's up there.
It's
Beneath
up there.
Is more. Beneath is an event that happens, but this is more personal. So the other one is more jaw-dropping. This one is more emotional because you know the people. You know, if they had shown the apes withering away in a sudden blast in Ape City and only shadows on the wall, then you would go, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? It's just a whiteout. Well, it's different. It's a different concept. But they're both very powerful endings. They really are. They're very powerful endings. And I give it credit for that.
All right. Well, I'm going to take this out from being live, and we can talk afterward. But I want to just thank everybody in the chat real quick. Ben Grimm, Jamie Hart, Off the Grill, Cornelius, Jay. Thank you so much for coming and enjoying the commentary. And Scott and I will now say good night.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for coming.